familiar faces in the room, and it's great to see. I know people have come from far and wide to honor him today. It means a lot to all of us. What we're just going to do right now is play a quick tribute video. Obviously cannot capture a life like my father's in any type of short clip, but we did our best. I just want to play that for everybody. If you can kind of make your way in here so you can see the television, hopefully without blocking anybody. I'd like to play that now.
Who's that? Illegitimate black.
For you, there'll be no more crying. For you, the sun will be shining, and I feel that when I'm ready, it's alright. I know it's right. To you, I'll give the world. To you, I'll never be cold. 'Cause I feel that when I'm with you, it's alright. I know it's right. And the songbirds are singing like they know the score. And I love you like never before. And I wish you all the love in the world, but most of all, I wish it from myself. And the songbirds keep singing like they know the score. And I love you, I love you, I love you like never before. Like never before. Like never before.
We watched that video at home about 8 or 9 times last night to try to desensitize ourselves to it. Didn't really work. Again, I do appreciate everyone that's showing up today. I know my father would desperately want him to be here, given all the familiar faces that I know that he loved. A lot of stories I've heard throughout the years, a lot of the names I've heard, I've got to put faces to it today, finally, so a lot of things have come full circle. It's been very nice. I think we're just about ready. But for myself, both of my sisters, I wanted to eulogize my father as best we could. And I think my oldest niece, Patty, would also like to speak. We're going to lead off with my older sister, Debbie Beal.
Okay. Of all the, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Of all the words, I sound very morose. Of all the words I've written, these feel like the most important words in my life. This was the eulogy I never wanted to write. I simply could never imagine a world without my father. And I have found it impossible to capture in words what our father has meant to all of us in this room. Even right now, as I look around the room, I find myself trying to catch my father's eye, to see his wink or his nod of the head to say, yes, you've got this. You can do hard things. I've got you. And the absence of this is staggering. I can hear the advice he might have offered me. You don't have to be perfect. Speak from the heart. Do your best. But Dad, my best is not good enough. I will never be able to adequately capture the wonder of my father in words. It's impossible. But I'll try. The lessons from my father are many. When my dad grew up, half Russian Jew, half Irish Catholic. In the 1940s, he learned to tell the first joke, be the first one to tell a joke, to take the sting out of the jokes of others, he used to tell me. In fact, my father's sense of humor is one of his greatest traits. You can tell a lot about a person by looking in their eyes. And my father's eyes were always warm and twinkling. And his mouth in pictures were almost always half open because the camera had caught him mid-joke. Now, I'm sure all of us in this room could compare jokes, but today I want to focus on the last one he told his grandson Ryan. And in fact, my cousin Michael Patrick asked, do you know what your father's last joke was? Indeed, I do. On the phone in the hospital the Thursday before he passed, with a lot of sadness surrounding him, my father asked Ryan about his hockey games, and Ryan said to my dad, Grandpa, I would like to see you make it. And my father, without missing a beat, yelled, you would like to see me naked? What the hell is wrong with you? Providing us all in the room with much needed relief from the sadness and a laugh we will all cherish. I remember when we all visited Ireland. We were in a small town, and I'm sure we looked obviously American. An older Irish gentleman engaged in conversation with us, and he had some very strong opinions about what was wrong with our country. In his estimation, and I apologize to half of my family right now, it was the Jews. I remember this vividly, hearing this man's assessment and looking at my father very quickly. I was horrified, wondering how my dad would respond. And with the epitome of grace, my dad laughed, but moved us out of there. And I asked my dad, Dad, doesn't that bother you? You're Jewish. And he said, Debbie, this is his country. It's not worth our time. And in that moment, I learned from my dad that not every fight is worth fighting. Until it is. Because don't be fooled, as you all know, my dad might have been the first one to tell a joke, and he did not like to hurt anybody. But when one of his own was hurt, he would come out roaring. I can recall one high school football game, a boy in my life crossed the line, sorry Tom, and just would not leave me alone, following me, making me uncomfortable, and I don't know what my father said to that boy. But I remember the unusually close talking my father was using, with a finger pointed not very gently in this young boy's face, and judging by the terror on that boy's face, I think we can all imagine the words my father was using. And strangely, that boy never bothered me again. So the lessons from my father: pick your battles. Lead with kindness and humor, but sometimes fight your battles. Because some fights are worth fighting. When I was younger, being with my dad felt like I was being with a rock star. I was so proud to tell anybody who wanted to know, I am Don Maloney's daughter. To be able to hold my father's hand and walk through this world Watching how he put others at ease with a joke or a smile or the friendly howdy he gave even a stranger. This was a feeling I wish I could bottle up for this world, because this feeling would be the most powerful drug in the world. Nothing bad could happen to me when I held my father's hand. I read an article once talking about parenting, and the statement was made: all children really need to see is that their parents' eyes light up with joy whenever they see them. That was our dad. When we walked through the door, his eyes would light up like a Christmas tree. He was always so happy to see us, and that feeling as a young child, priceless. When I was very young, I would see my dad just once a week, mainly on Sundays. Before each Sunday was done, I would be already counting the days for the next one. I could not wait to spend time with him again. I often picture myself a bit like a puppy, kind of like Sable, waiting by the window, waiting for my father to arrive. Now, you all know my dad was always late. Always. So my excitement would just grow with each passing minute, and if I had a tail, it would have been wagging, frantically waiting for the sound of my father's car. And despite being late, time with my father never disappointed. Never. So for a few years there, after my parents divorced, it was my dad and I, against the world. And then something wonderful happened. Because my dad showed me that love is wonderful when shared becomes even better. And he introduced me to one of the most beautiful women I had ever met. My Grandma Eminem's mom. And now I had even more reasons to look forward to our Sundays. In fact, Lynn, wanting to be respectful of our time together, would sometimes stay home. And I struggled with how to tell my dad, I actually like it better when Lynn joins us, Dad. I didn't want to hurt my father's feelings, but I loved when you joined us. We had a dance that if there was a video, we would have it right now. That was, we had so much fun, but I love the way you and Dad made each other laugh. What you didn't realize, Lynn, is that when you showed up, you were not intruding on our time. You were making it better by showing me what love looks like. And it looked beautiful. So when Dad asked my opinion about them getting married, I think they thought I'd not be happy. I couldn't get the yes out quickly enough. And from that love came two of the most important people in my life. From your union came my brother and sister. And keeping it honest, when I first learned of Ryan's impending arrival, I was nervous. I was not sure what it would feel like to share this love. But when I met you, and later you, Amanda, I knew instantly the answer. It felt pretty darn good. I fell in love with my brother and sister, and my only sadness was not having them sooner. More later on that. I'm almost done. I told you I would say that. That's kind of a lie. I'm not really almost done, but I'll speed up. Halfway done. Some of my most important decisions were shaped by my dad. One of the most important decisions in life, my father used to tell me, is who you choose to marry. That is the foundation on which most happiness or misery can lie. And when it appeared to my father that I might have been going in the wrong direction, another apology to my husband, he did not shy away from telling me the hard news. So this, if there was a hashtag for the story children, would be, kids, learn from your mother's horrible mistakes and never repeat them. I had a boyfriend who found himself in legal trouble. And yes, he actually needed bail money. And yes, I called my father. During a business dinner at a local hotel, and this was in the days when to call somebody at a hotel, you actually had to call the front desk. You had to ask for the manager. The manager had to go into the dinner, had to interrupt the dinner. Ooh, that's embarrassing. And I will never forget, first of all, the anger in my father's tone when I told him what I needed. But the wisdom when he said, Debbie, I'm going to do you a huge effing favor. I'm going to say no. And then he hung up. And in that one action, my father taught me my value when I wasn't entirely sure of it. My father also taught me the power of an apology. Early in my marriage with Tom, we had a fight. And I was really immature, and I said a mean thing. And I instantly knew I had hurt Tom's feelings. As I always did when things got rough, I called my father and I was bawling. I knew I had done something horrible that could not be corrected. And I remember the quite attentive way my father listened. I was a blubbering mess, and when I cried, "Dad, I just don't know what to do," as I said so many times, he chuckled and gave me one of the most important pieces of advice, and he said, "Debbie, yes you do. You know what to do. You don't have an ego invested in being right. You have an ego invested in doing right. Now do the right thing and apologize." And when my father knew me better than myself, that's priceless. Big decisions, my father's voice was always there, always, until it wasn't. This past year was very difficult. My father's voice, one of the most important and loving voices in our lives, began to slowly quiet. Not as strong, harder to hear, sometimes confused, but always loving. I still can't fathom it's gone. The voice that gave me my bedtime stories as a young child when it really was just us. Beverly Bunny, the Shit and Tango and Chipmango. Clever. The voice that gave me my nickname, Hey Debbie Doo. The voice that always reassured me we would get through it, whatever it was, is gone. My dad's presence would fill any room he was in a good way. And when that presence begins to fade away, the silence is deafening. For Dad's final days on earth, I was inspired by the beauty of what our family did. Jonathan and Jesse, Kaylee, Lauren, and Ryan, I watched you walk into your grandfather's room. You held his hand. You stroked his head. You laughed with him. You cried with him. You kissed him goodbye. You had to walk out of the room knowing this was your last time with Grandpa. That's impossible to do, and you did it. That's love. Leah and Lachlan, double L, the chickens, the dynamic duo. Your joyful relationship allowed us respites of joy when we would have thought that impossible. Where's Kern? Where is he? Kern, I saw you help our father in ways I couldn't do without a moment's hesitation. I saw it, and I saw you. And I just want you to know that my sister has chosen wisely. Aunt Kathy and Uncle Mike, losing a brother, witnessing the moment so hard, and you stayed. Uncle Tom Cooney, where are you? I don't speak up there. I'm blind to that. Okay, I really am. You stayed. Quietly but strongly, serving as witness as your best friend passed. And my husband, Tom, with memories of past painful losses and sorrows of ones yet to come in your heart, compelling you most likely to run, you stayed to protect my heart, and I'm forever grateful. I really needed you. Thank you. Ryan, never leaving the side of your best friend. Never turning away from witnessing our father's last breath. Amanda, as our father passed, you rose to incredible challenges and met each one squarely, unflinchingly. Lynn, removing every obstacle from our father's path to bring him home, always looking for ways to make his life better, until there was nothing left to do. Dad, I hope you felt the love surrounding you. There was sadness and there was fear, but there was so much love. We did what we thought was impossible and we let you go. But how do we move forward? Grandma, Mom, Lynn, in loving our father so ferociously, selflessly, loyally, not only did you take care of our father's heart, you took care of ours. Showing us the model to follow when our roads ahead get rocky, including right now. All I have to do is think, who is the fiercest woman I know and what would she do now? And it's you. and I will forever be in awe of your devotion to our Father. I know you fear that Dad was the fun one and you had to be the bad guy because Dad hated saying no, and we knew that. But don't you see, we knew you were never the bad guy. How can things done out of love be bad? They aren't. And when a partner fills in the gap for their spouse in such an important way, that is love. Love for us, love for Dad. We needed you in those moments to hold the line, to do the harder things that perhaps Dad could not. You were never the bad guy. You just were always the one strong enough to say the things that were hard to say and do. And strong enough always to fight for Dad. My life would have been so different if you hadn't done that for Dad 9 years ago. And I am forever grateful that I've been blessed with 2 moms. Not everyone in this world can say that, but I can. So I love you, Mom. To the 2 in this room who uniquely feel the pain of losing this great man as a father, all of us too young despite our father's age, Ryan and Amanda, I say to you, Amanda, I know you are sad to have lost Dad as a grandfather to Lachlan and his little sister or brother. I vowed, did I just, oh shit. Oh dear, okay. I vow to you, whoops. Surprise! More on that later from Amanda. You will feel the whisper of our Father's soul on the lives of your children. For the path that surrounds you over there, they know what it feels like to be loved by our Father. And we will make sure your children do as well. Lachlan already feels the imprint of our Dad through the love and care you shower on him. You are a natural mother, and you chose so well in Curran. We cannot deny the truth that your children will not know directly the influence of our Father's love as they grow up. But indirectly, the joy and humor in your son's eyes, the love he simply radiates, the way he loves Amir. Hi, Dad. If a baby could exemplify love and joy, it's Lachlan. Your children will feel our Father. As we said goodbye to our Father, I could see you often putting your grief away to attend to ours. So to the second fiercest woman I know in this room, full of very fierce women, my sister, I'm in awe of your strength and wisdom. You are wise beyond your years. But just remember, take care of that heart and soul of yours and release yourself from your worry about us. And my brother.
Skip. Skip it.
My wish for you is that you see yourself as we see you. You reflect the best of our Father. Remember what I said about eyes? You can tell a lot about a person by looking at their eyes. And Dads were always warm and twinkling, and so are yours. The day you held our Father's hand last Thanksgiving as he lay in excruciating pain, having fallen and broken his femur, you stroked his face, you cried with him, you calmed him down, and I know you will hear his pains from that time forever. You stepped up to the standards our Father has set for us by selflessly putting aside your own discomfort to care for him, exactly as Dad showed you how to do. You became the co-patriarch of that family in that moment. You represent the best of our Father, whether this is taking that one Ryan to Fenway and Yankee Stadium in one weekend, because it gave you so much joy to see Ryan, just like it gave you joy with our Father, or even struggling to tell one of your nibblings over here no, even when you knew it was the right thing to do. You have our Father's heart. We all see it and believe it. It's now your turn to believe it. So in closing, as I try to answer the question for myself, how do I let my Father go? I can hear our Father in my mind. You can do this, Debbie. Do. You You can do hard things. You've got this, sweetheart. And as I continue to look around the room for his nod, the twinkle in his eye, I realize I now need to turn my eyes upward and listen to my memories. But I can still find his words to find my way. We all can. An old Irish saying, death leaves a heartache no one can heal. Love leaves a memory no one can steal. Grandpa believes people live on in memories. In this room alone is a heaven full of memories for our father. He has lived his life so very well, leaving each of us with so many beautiful memories. Our father shall live on. Thank you.
I think my oldest niece, my dad's oldest granddaughter, Kaylee Beal, Debbie's daughter, would like to say a few words.
Sorry, I need my sister here as my emotional support. Yeah. My name is Kaylee. I'm Dawn's granddaughter, and I just wanted to say a few words about my grandpa from the grandkids' perspective. As I've been writing this eulogy, I found it difficult to put into words how special my grandpa was. There are not enough words in the world to describe how incredible he was. He had the ability to make everyone in the room laugh until they cried. My siblings and I describe him as our hero. And although he had a ton of grandkids, he somehow managed to make all of us feel special. Showing up to all of our sporting events, checking in on us before our semester started, and checking up on our loved ones. One of the things I admired most about my grandpa was how ferociously he loved his friends, his children, his grandchildren, his sports teams, and his wife. My grandparents' love is something I've idolized since I was a little girl. I've watched them laugh together for hours and support each other during their best and worst times. My grandpa is the reason that my standards are set so high. On a serious note, when you lose someone, you become anxious to hold on to your memories with them. You're suddenly a giddy 8-year-old again on your way to Syracuse to stay at Grandma and Grandpa's house for the week. Your favorite part of the summer was spending that week with them, going to the zoo, swimming in their pool, playing with Grandpa and the dogs in the backyard, and eating Grandpa's matzo ball soup with a side of M&Ms. You're suddenly 12 again, running down the basketball court and searching the stands for a big 6'5" man with a mustache. When you spot him, you smile and say to yourself, "Yay, Grandpa made it." After the game, you're greeted with a "Hey, gorgeous," a big hug and a smooch on the forehead from him as he tells you how great you played, even though you scored in your own team's basket. So you're suddenly 22, on your way to spend Christmas with Grandma and Grandpa and your aunt and uncle because your whole family, except for you, got COVID. And your grandparents opened their doors for you with no hesitation. You're making the 5-hour drive from Boston to Syracuse on Christmas Eve, feeling like that little 8-year-old again. There's no greater feeling than pulling into Grandma and Grandpa's long driveway and seeing that big yellow house at the end of it, knowing all the love and laughter that lies inside and is waiting for you. That Christmas Eve, we ate dinner and sat around the table playing games and laughing at everything Grandpa said, of course. And now you're 24, saying goodbye to your grandpa for the last time. Holding his hand, kissing his forehead, and telling him over and over how much you love him. And that he was the best grandpa ever. 24 years with him was not nearly enough, but I will cherish those 24 years and all of our memories with him forever. My siblings and I have been loved so well by him. To say that I am lucky to be one of his grandkids is an understatement. It's a blessing that I'm truly grateful for and will be for the rest of my life.
Thank you, Kaylee. Great start. I might have a lot of pauses in this one because it's more difficult. I tried to practice this morning and thought I would get through it with no problems. That was not the case in the practice run, so I apologize in advance. I tried to keep things a little bit more lighthearted for my eulogy, but ultimately to fully capture my dad, I had to delve into some of the things that made him a very well-rounded individual. So, I didn't mean physically. I was in middle school. Oh. So wrapping up already? I was in middle school the first time that my dad had cancer, and I've been afraid of this day ever since. And despite all the tools that my father gave me to prepare for a life without him, I'm simply not ready. But never being ready is actually one of the traits that I absorbed from him. And I hope my father was truly touched to look down and see me this morning writing this at the absolute last minute. My father loved people. He loved telling stories to and about the people that he loved. I've heard a few people say they're in disbelief that they're coming here today and they're not going to see him waltzing through that door. And I think somewhere he's seeing all the familiar faces in this room at once and thinking, this is bullshit. I have a lot of stories I want to retell. So today we will all tell those stories for him. And there is no better place to practice the art of storytelling than a traditional Irish pub. So here we are at Coleman's, a place which my father once raved, and I quote, "It used to be a real dump, but now it's really nice." High praise from the Don. So please tell these stories today. I can get us started. I can tell you about a horrific day I had at Bishop Grimes basketball camp in the mid-90s. My dad dropped me off. I started shooting around to warm up. Almost immediately, I knew something was off. I felt unsupported. So I took the quarter that was given to me to be used in case of emergencies, and I went to the payphone. And I placed a phone call, an emergency phone call, at the highest order. I forgot my underwear. I whispered into the receiver, afraid that one of my fellow campers would overhear me. "What?" squawked my mother in her most elegant telephone voice. Annoyed, I rolled my eyes, rechecked my surroundings, and repeated slightly louder, "I forgot my underwear." My mother began to laugh uncontrollably. So painful memory for me. But then assured me that underwear would be dropped off. I breathed a half sigh of relief, but then provided very detailed instructions on where to discreetly meet me to, quote, make the drop. I want you to remember I was Leah's age at this time, so this was absolutely mortifying for me. My mother agreed to all of my instructions for this covert operation, but then said the 5 words I absolutely did not want to hear. "Your father will do it." I knew that I could take all of my plans of how I wanted this to go and throw them right out the goddamn window. Sure enough, minutes later, an imposing figure entered the gymnasium. I saw the salt and pepper hair, the whimsical walk, the 5-star mustache. Most of all, I saw my underwear being waved 7 feet in the air. As my dad screamed, "Hey, Ryan, you get something?" He then proceeded to tell the coach, Tony Smorelli, that, quote, "That was close. You would have had to call him for double dribble all day." That was a joke about testicles. My dad almost always went for the laugh, even at the expense of a moody preteen, because he knew we'd get over it. He had too much charm for us not to get over it. Plus, if you stayed mad at him for too long, you would hurt his feelings. You might even make the gentle giant cry, which would in turn make you cry. And today we all cry. But we must also laugh. So tell those stories, please. Ask my uncles John and George about Dad speeding back to the clubhouse during a round of golf. I'll give you a spoiler, it's not because he misjudged a putt, but because he misjudged a fart. Ask my mother about the smitten mittens, ask my sisters about Mr. Ruth. And if your sides hurt and you need a break from the laughter, there will be no shortage of people to tell you stories about what a loving man my father was. These stories exist because he loved so much, and for him, love meant showing up. I played almost 50 games of varsity basketball, and I don't recall him missing one game. He was there when my sister Debbie won the Chancellor's Award at Corning. He was at Lincoln Center when Amanda graduated from podiatry school. He was there when his grandson Johnny hit a home run in Little League, and not one of those bullshit Little League home runs. It's one over the fence. He was at the Blue Cross Arena in Rochester for his granddaughter Kaylee's cheer competition. He was at the Twin Rinks in Cicero, and little Ryan, who we probably should now refer to as just younger Ryan, scored a goal on the very net we were standing next to. He was there for senior night when Lauren played her final basketball game, the only grandkid to gravitate toward the sport he loved most. He was there for fall ball, risking COVID and all to see Lee play softball. And he was in Spring Hill, Tennessee, no longer able to walk without assistance, to meet Lachlan, the newest grandbaby. He was there to pick my mom up from cancer treatment. Taking a photo of my drugged up mother, gleefully throwing her hands in the air. To text to his worried children to comfort them. Which brings me to my closing thought. We are here to celebrate Don, but Don spent half of his life celebrating Linda, my mother. And I know that he needs me to close this by celebrating her too. If there is a theme to my speech, it's storytelling. One thing I've picked up on in hearing stories about my dad is that he changed over the years, especially after he met my mom. Thanks to Nate LaRocca for confirming this at the bar earlier. He tamed his ass, he said. Mom, you brought out the best in my dad and kept him on the path of living an honorable life, a life we can be proud to celebrate today. My dad was my best friend, but even I know, if given the power to come back and speak to just one person, it would be you. He would tell you one more time, great meal, hon. Even as Amanda and I continued to question if the state should actually be that color. Found out later in life, it should not. Most of all, I know he'd say thank you. Thank you for molding him into the father he was for the three of us, the grandpa he was for the six of them. You spent the last 14 months doing everything for him. Well, that time period is one I reflect on with hurt and anger. The silver lining was the reminder of just how fucking tough you are. I love you, Dad. I love you, Mom.
Love you.
Thank you. I know that's a wrap. Sorry, my younger sister Amanda would like to speak. So the youngest of Don's children, Amanda Delaney.
I wanted to start off by reading an Irish prayer. Grieve not, nor speak of me with tears, but laugh and talk with me as though I were beside you. I loved you so. It was heaven here with you. I was struggling to write this until someone simply asked me,
What would you want the world to know about your dad? This
Irish prayer sums it up nicely in that being in Don Maloney's presence was a little slice of heaven. Any moment, no matter how brief, spent around my dad was guaranteed to bring some laughs. You felt his warmth and couldn't help but take part in his playful energy. As his little girl, any moment in his presence was truly magical. In my efforts to write this, I came across a list. The top 5 regrets of the dying. You might be surprised to hear that I found myself smiling by the time I reached the end of the list. You felt his warmth and couldn't help but take part in his playful energy. As his little girl, any moment in his presence was truly magical. In my efforts to write this, I came across a list. The top 5 regrets of the dying. You might be surprised to hear that I found myself smiling by the time I reached the end of the list. I don't assume that my dad passed without regret, but I smiled because, based on my observation of how he lived, I don't think he had very many. Working off that list of regrets, I created a new one. This is a list and some examples of all the things Don Maloney did right. Number 1, Dad stayed in touch with his friends. That is evident just by looking around this room today. Growing up, I heard countless stories of some of the shenanigans that took place at Carrier. Let's just say, unfortunately, those same shenanigans would not be tolerated by today's HR standards. Every Friday, my dad very much looked forward to lunch or the occasional golf outing with some of his longtime friends. Even when his golf game left much to be desired, he was just happy to spend time with them. Dad kept up those lunch dates this past year, even when getting out of the house was close to physically impossible. My dad had the courage to express his feelings. A few years back, there was a Friendly's commercial featuring a dad taking his young daughter out on an ice cream date. We'd all be sitting around as a family when this commercial came on, and we'd hear those familiar little sniffles coming from my dad's direction. Mom and I would exchange a look, and by look I mean a roll of the eyes. Crying and expressing most sentiments seemed to come easily to my dad. I always knew how much he loved me, when he was excited for me, and how proud he was just to be my dad. Though it was rare, I knew when he was pissed at me too. Or pissed at the Yankees, or SU basketball, or SU football. We can keep going. One of the most impactful examples of my dad's courage to express his feelings was his devotion and adoration of our mom. He was amused by her spunk, and there were times it seemed like he lived to make her laugh or drive her crazy. He was often grabbing her dramatically for a kiss or a dance around the kitchen. He never spoke negatively of her to many of us kids, and making sure we respected her was a duty he did not take lightly. Much of the time, his love was expressed through acts of service, rallying us kids to help clean the house when we had tested our mom's patience one too many times, baking mom a heart-shaped cake on Valentine's Day, giving her a break from making dinner with one of his specialties, breakfast supper. One of the greatest and most difficult acts of service was provided in return by our mom over the past 13 months. Mom, you have done one of the hardest jobs in caring for our father. I know I didn't say it enough when you were in the thick of it, but thank you for doing it so beautifully. Throughout our lives and up until his very last moments, you and Dad showed us time and time again how to lean on one another through life's challenges. You two demonstrated the incredible resiliency and strength that can arise from love and partnership. They say you can't choose your father, but you can choose your husband. So Mom, thank you for that too. And thank you for changing your mind about never wanting children. Dad let himself be happy, and he allowed time for play. I could spend all day listing examples of this, but I'll just give you a few of my favorites. As young kids, Ryan and I would be playing downstairs, and my dad would call for us. By the time we got to the landing, he would tell us in a big booming voice that we were in big, big trouble. Given the frequency and intensity of the battles between Ryan and I usually wondered for at least a second or two as to whether we were actually in trouble. But within moments, big, big trouble played out into a wrestling match in which we'd climb all over our dad, be flipped upside down, tossed onto furniture, and tickled until we lost our breath. Another one of my favorite memories is riding in the car with Dad, not because he was a fantastic driver, but because the back seat is where I came to appreciate music, particularly the oldies. I was often curious about the lyrics, and I would ask my dad what the songs were about. He would always provide me an honest and animated answer, even when I asked about Run Around Sue. When Motown was blaring in the car, my dad was usually dancing. He'd even intentionally jerk the wheel from side to side to make the car join in. On one occasion, we were stopped at a red light somewhere in Syracuse. Dad was mid-dance when he exclaimed, "I just can't take it anymore." The driver's side door flew open, and next thing we knew, Dad was dancing his ass off in the village. There were plenty of other opportunities for my dad to embarrass me as a teen. He didn't turn too many of those down. He would be disappointed if I didn't mention his all-time favorite outfit, which he seemed to intentionally show up to every one of my basketball games wearing. It consisted of a green Lemoyne sweatshirt with a different, very jarring shade of green corduroy pants. I'd just like to remind everyone that JD's colors are red and white. Lastly, one of the most humiliating moments happened at Christmas time in Lake Placid. While my dad and I were browsing in a store on Main Street, he received a call on his phone. The entire store was treated to a very loud rendition of Jingle Bells via his ringtone. However, this particular version was a remix known as Jingle Farts. I don't think that requires further explanation. I booked it for the exit, and I remember turning around to see my dad clutching a rack of clothes, his face beet red, laughing so hard that it was inaudible. As embarrassed as I was, I couldn't help but laugh too. Related to that story is the last item on the list. Dad had the courage to live a life true to himself, and not a life others expected of him. More importantly, for my siblings and I, he encouraged us to do the same. During a difficult period in my life, I had to tell my dad that I had made a terrible mistake. I recall my voice shaking as I told him. I was embarrassed and worried I had disappointed him. Without any hesitation, he pulled me in close, told me he loved me, and reminded me that the only thing that mattered to him was my happiness. He supported me. His support for me never wavered, even at my lowest moment. That is one of the greatest gifts a parent can give to a child. That gift gave me permission to be honest with myself, to start a new job in Atlanta, make friends in a city where I knew no one. Ultimately, that led me to Curran. To say my dad approved of Curran is an understatement. He was beyond thrilled that someone would love his girl as well as he did. Then came our little boy Lachlan, who already has that same mischievous charm, sense of humor, and dimples as my dad. Many of you in this room already know. Well, now you know. We're expecting our second child this summer. What you may not know is that he or she is due on August 6th, my dad's birthday. And if my dad has any if my dad has any say in the matter, that baby will be born on August 6th. Our dad was larger than life, and his absence is a void that we will continue to sense for all time. But I think collectively we can fill that space just a little bit with everything he taught us. I will always wish that my children could know their grandmother. But as you've just witnessed, his Aunt Debbie will serve as a storyteller and wear her giant heart on her sleeve. As my nieces and nephews can attest to, Uncle Ryan will provide the laughs by retelling some of Dad's best jokes and using some original material too. I will continue to play the oldies while I spin my kids around the kitchen. And Grandma will give all the hugs and kisses and speak of one of the greatest love stories of all time. Thank you.
I think everybody's got a drink if you have one. It's probably an appropriate time to a toast. You're not supposed to do anything. I know that probably it'd normally be appropriate to toast the one we're celebrating today, but if I know my dad, I don't think that's what he'd want right now. Because there's been a lot of people in this room, and some that are not in this room, that have lifted this family up at a time that we really need it. So if you could just toast yourselves. Sláinte. Let's get drunk.